The morning coffee shop bustled with customers grabbing their daily caffeine fix before heading to work. A young woman sat alone at a corner table when several men nearby began whispering cruel comments. She's probably just pretending to belong here. She lowered her head, her face turning red with embarrassment and hurt. Suddenly, a man in an old shirt set down his coffee cup and stood protectively in front of her. That's enough. Nobody has the right to speak to her like that. He had no idea this woman was a billionaire. Meet Ethan Miller, 35 years old, single father with a tall frame, brown hair, wearing a faded shirt and worn shoes that had seen better days. His daughter Hannah, 9 years old, was intelligent, innocent, and loved drawing pictures for her daddy. Ethan worked as a maintenance employee at a small company, raising Hannah alone since his wife died in a car accident 3 years earlier. His coworkers often looked down on him. That poor single dad will never amount to anything. Ethan never argued back. He just quietly endured their dismissive comments while focusing entirely on providing for Hannah. In his wallet, he always kept a small piece of paper with Hannah's handwriting. "Daddy, you're my hero." That morning, Ethan dropped Hannah off at school and stopped by the coffee shop before work, choosing a corner table where he could review some repair documents. Hannah had sent him a text message. "Don't forget to eat breakfast, Daddy." The sweet reminder made Ethan smile as he ordered his usual black coffee and plain bagel. He was reviewing technical blueprints when he noticed the atmosphere in the coffee shop shift uncomfortably. A group of businessmen at a nearby table were making loud, cruel comments directed at a young woman sitting alone. "Look at her trying to act sophisticated," one of them sneered. "She probably can't even afford what she ordered," added another. "Girls like that come here just to pretend they belong with successful people." The woman kept her head down, clearly trying to ignore their harassment. But Ethan could see her hands trembling slightly as she held her coffee cup. Ethan felt his protective instincts rising as he watched this stranger being bullied by grown men who should know better. He thought about Hannah and the lessons he tried to teach her every day about treating people with kindness and respect. What kind of father would he be if he sat silently while someone was being mistreated right in front of him? He remembered his late wife's words. The world needs more people who stand up for others, especially when it's difficult. Ethan had promised her that he would raise Hannah to be brave and compassionate, but how could he teach those values if he didn't demonstrate them himself? The cruel comments were getting louder and more personal, and the woman looked like she was about to cry. In the coffee shop, Ethan noticed an elegantly dressed young woman being mocked by men at a nearby table. He frowned slightly, set down his cup, and prepared to stand up, knowing that Hannah would want him to do the right thing. The woman being harassed was Isabella Laurent, 29 years old, beautiful with an air of quiet sophistication, but dressed simply that day to avoid drawing attention to her wealth. The group of men continued their cruel commentary. "She's probably counting every penny to afford that coffee. I bet she's here fishing for a rich boyfriend to take care of her. Women like that are all the same, looking for handouts." Isabella's face turned red with humiliation, but she remained silent, hoping they would eventually lose interest and leave her alone. That's when Ethan stood up and walked directly to her table, positioning himself between Isabella and the group of bullies. "That's enough," he said firmly but calmly. "Basic respect for other people should be a minimum requirement for adults." The men looked up, annoyed by his intervention. "Who are you to butt into our conversation?" Ethan's response was simple but powerful. "I'm a father, and I refuse to let my daughter grow up thinking that staying silent when something is wrong is acceptable." The entire coffee shop fell quiet as other customers turned to watch the confrontation. Isabella looked up at Ethan with a mixture of shock and gratitude, surprised that a complete stranger would risk confrontation to defend her. "This isn't your business," one of the harassers said aggressively. "When I see bullying happening in front of me, it becomes my business," Ethan replied steadily. The group of men muttered some final insults, but gathered their things and left the coffee shop, clearly uncomfortable with the attention they were receiving from other customers. As the tension dissipated, Ethan turned to Isabella. "Are you okay? I'm sorry you had to deal with that." Isabella nodded, her voice soft with genuine appreciation. "Thank you so much. You didn't have to do that." Ethan shrugged modestly. "I just did what needed to be done. No one deserves to be treated that way." He returned to his table, gathered his repair documents, and left for work, completely unaware that he had just defended one of the wealthiest women in the city. Isabella watched him leave, deeply moved by his selfless intervention. Unlike the countless men who had approached her over the years, hoping to gain something from her wealth or status, this stranger had helped her simply because it was the right thing to do. She had spent years surrounded by people who either wanted something from her or were intimidated by her success. But this man had seen her as just another human being who deserved basic respect and dignity. Isabella had inherited her family's business empire at 25 and had since built it into one of the most successful corporations in the country. She was accustomed to being recognized wherever she went, which was why she dressed so simply that morning, hoping to enjoy a quiet coffee without the usual attention. The irony wasn't lost on her that the one morning she wanted to be invisible was the morning she met someone who saw her for who she truly was. As she finished her coffee, Isabella found herself thinking about Ethan's words, "I'm a father." Something about the way he had said it, with such quiet pride and responsibility, impressed her more than any business achievement or wealthy display she had ever witnessed. Isabella watched Ethan leave and whispered to herself, "A father, but he's completely different from every man I've ever encountered." She had no idea that fate would bring them together again very soon, in a way that would surprise them both. The next day at work, Ethan arrived to find his coworkers buzzing with unusual excitement about something happening at the company. "The CEO of Laurent Corporation is coming for a site inspection today," someone announced. "Everyone needs to be on their best behavior." Ethan continued with his maintenance duties, not particularly interested in corporate visits that rarely affected his day-to-day work. But when Isabella walked through the front doors, accompanied by several executives and assistants, Ethan nearly dropped his toolbox. It was the woman from the coffee shop. His coworkers whispered in amazement, "That's Isabella Laurent, the youngest billionaire in the state. She inherited the company and tripled its value in 4 years." Isabella spotted Ethan immediately and gave him a subtle, knowing smile that didn't go unnoticed by the other employees. During the facility tour, a serious electrical malfunction occurred that threatened to shut down the entire production line. The chief engineer was panicking, unable to identify the source of the problem that was costing the company thousands of dollars every minute. Without being asked, Ethan stepped forward and quickly diagnosed the issue, fixing it with the same calm competence he had shown at the coffee shop the day before. Isabella watched his every move, impressed not only by his technical skill but by his quiet confidence and methodical approach to problem solving. After the crisis was resolved and the tour continued, Isabella made a point of speaking privately with Ethan. "You know," she said with a warm smile, "yesterday you taught an entire coffee shop about respect and dignity." Ethan looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did what I hoped my daughter would want to see me do." Isabella's expression grew serious. "That's exactly what impressed me most. I meet powerful people every day, but very few have real character." Word spread quickly through the company that the billionaire CEO had singled out their maintenance worker for special attention. Some employees were confused. Why would someone like her notice a guy like him? But Isabella didn't care about office gossip or social expectations. She made a point of addressing the entire staff. "People like Ethan Miller are the reason I believe this company has real value. Character and integrity matter more than titles or salaries." Her public endorsement sent shockwaves through the workplace as employees realized they had been underestimating Ethan all along. A business journalist who was covering the Laurent Corporation visit captured photos of Isabella shaking hands with Ethan, while other employees watched in amazement. The images appeared in several business publications with captions like "Billionaire CEO recognizes single father's dignity" and "When character trumps status." But the media attention meant nothing to Ethan compared to the text message he received from Hannah during lunch. "Daddy, my teacher saw you in the newspaper. She said you're famous for being nice to people." That evening, Isabella surprised Ethan by showing up at his modest apartment with a gift box for Hannah. "I hope you don't mind," she said when Ethan answered the door. "I wanted to meet the daughter who raised such a good father." Hannah emerged shyly from behind her father and immediately presented Isabella with one of her drawings: 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. Isabella was genuinely moved by the child's innocent gesture and the obvious love between father and daughter. "You know," she told Ethan as Hannah showed her more artwork, "I've been around wealth and power my entire life, but I've rarely seen anything as valuable as what you've created here." Ethan felt overwhelmed by her attention. "We're just ordinary people living an ordinary life." "No," Isabella replied firmly. "Yesterday at the coffee shop, you showed extraordinary character. Today at the office, you demonstrated exceptional competence. And right now, I'm seeing exceptional parenting." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I've been looking for someone I can trust completely, someone whose values align with mine. I think I may have found that person." News outlets picked up the story and published photos of Isabella shaking hands with Ethan, with the caption, "Billionaire respects single dad for his dignity." But for Isabella, this was just the beginning of something much more meaningful than a business relationship. After the dramatic events at his workplace, Ethan's co-workers completely changed their attitude toward him, now greeting him with genuine respect rather than condescension. Isabella began visiting regularly, sometimes bringing small gifts for Hannah, and always taking time to admire the little girl's latest artwork. During one visit, Hannah surprised Isabella with a drawing of all 3 of them having a picnic together, with the words "My new friend" written in crayon above Isabella's figure. Isabella was deeply moved by the child's acceptance and affection, having rarely experienced such genuine warmth from anyone. A group of college students who had witnessed the coffee shop incident posted about it on social media. Never judge people by appearances. An ordinary father taught an entire room about dignity and character. The story went viral, inspiring thousands of comments from people sharing their own experiences of being defended by strangers or standing up for others. But Ethan remained focused on his simple life, showing no interest in capitalizing on his newfound recognition or changing his modest lifestyle. Isabella found his humility refreshing after years of dealing with people who constantly tried to impress her or gain advantage from their association with her wealth. Over several weeks, she began offering Ethan consulting opportunities that would utilize his technical skills while respecting his priorities as a single father. "I need someone I can trust completely," she explained. "Someone who makes decisions based on what's right rather than what's profitable." Ethan carefully considered her proposals, always ensuring that any professional arrangement would support rather than interfere with his role as Hannah's primary caregiver. Eventually, he accepted a position as a special technical advisor to her company, working flexible hours that allowed him to maintain his commitment to Hannah's daily needs. The arrangement proved beneficial for everyone involved. Ethan brought innovative solutions and uncompromising integrity to complex engineering challenges. Isabella gained a trusted advisor whose judgment she valued above all others, and Hannah got to see her father receive the recognition he deserved. 6 months after their first meeting at the coffee shop, Isabella had become a regular part of their lives, joining them for Hannah's soccer games and school events. Hannah had grown to love Isabella like a big sister, and Isabella treasured every moment spent with the child who had helped her understand what family could really mean. One evening, as they watched Hannah play in the backyard, Isabella turned to Ethan. "You know, defending me at that coffee shop changed my life completely." Ethan smiled. "You defending me at my workplace changed mine too." "I wasn't defending you," Isabella replied. "I was finally acknowledging what I should have recognized immediately, that character matters more than anything else." Do you believe that one small act of kindness can make a billionaire CEO completely change her perspective? If you agree, leave "I believe" in the comments below. Ethan Miller's story shows us that true strength comes not from wealth or status, but from the courage to stand up for what's right. A single father who defended a stranger at a coffee shop captured the attention of a billionaire, not because of ambition or self-interest, but because of genuine decency. Sometimes the simplest acts of kindness open doors to opportunities we never imagined possible. When we choose to protect others without expecting anything in return, we reveal the character that truly matters in building meaningful relationships and lasting success. If you believe quiet heroes like Ethan deserve recognition, please share your thoughts and subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters in life.